We're learning a Maimon Parshas Eikev. It's this week Shabbos is Shabbos Mevochim. Mevochim, month of Elul, special month of Tshuva, right? So this Maimon is speaking about a pasuk in this week Parsha in chapter 13, verse 5. It says, Achrai Hashem Telechu. It's also the name of the Maimon. You should, the literal translation of Achrai Havai is behind Hashem, after him. Telechu, you shall walk. Uvoisid bakun. And ultimately you should cleave to Hashem. That's what the pasuk is telling you. Veisa b'sifri, the midrash, halachic midrash on the chumashim of Bamidbar and Dvarim says uvoisid bakun. What does it mean? Cleave to him. Cleave to him, according to the Sifri, is afrishu atzmechem avodah zarah v'divku b'mokim. Separate yourself from avodah zarah, from idolatry, and cleave to Hashem. Hashem is called also mokim. Right? It says Hashem is mokim shalolam and olam mokim. Anyway, the point is, when we see divku b'mokim, mokim is referring to Hashem. We say Amokim Yinachem, right? We say to mourners, Amokim Yinachem es. Amokim is referring to Hashem. So the point is, what is Uvoisid Bakun means according to the Sifri? Cleave to Him, separate yourself from Avodah Zarah, and stick to Hashem. So we need to understand what is the reason that separate yourself from Avodah Zarah, separate yourself from idolatry, was said after all the details that were mentioned in this pasuk. For example, the pasuk says, Achrai Hashem Telechu, follow Hashem. And before the end of the pasuk, it says, Uvoisid bakun, and cleave to him. What does it say? The whole pasuk says, V'isosiro, you should fear Hashem, v'ismitzvesosishmo. It's not written over here, it doesn't quote the whole pasuk, but the pasuk says, Oisosiro, you should fear Hashem, v'ismitzvesosishmo, guard his commandment, follow his commandment, guard his commandment, uvekoilosishmo, heed to his voice. And you should serve him. So the question is, why separating yourself from Avodah Zarah is associated with Uvoisid Bakun, and you should cleave to him? Or meaning, why do you say separate yourself from Avodah Zarah after you said all these things? Oh, you should fear him, guard his commandment, heed his voice, serve him. It says it's emes, it's true that the beginning of the work, meaning the initial steps to serve Hashem, starts with Achre Daiko, meaning that you are dealing with the outer, with the chitzonius, with the externality. That's how you start. You start with the external, with the outer aspects. Nevertheless, it also mentioned 5 different ways of serving Hashem. You're starting with the chitzonius, starting with the outer level, but then it says Achrei, but then it says you should fear him. There's many levels. One is higher than the other. ועד שאין זה מעניין אבידה כלל. שהאין זה אין צורך ליאס, שהאין זה צורך לספני אבידה. בפרט על פי המים הרבוסין ז"ל, קטלו ליצור לאבידה זו. Okay, so what we said is like this. If you take this pasuk and you analyze this pasuk, we have certain facts. What are the facts that we are aware of? The Sifri takes the words Uvoisid Bakun, the end of the pasuk, and he tells us Uvoisid Bakun means separate yourself from Avodah Zarah. That's what it means. Okay? That's the end of the pasuk. The beginning of the pasuk says Achrai Hashem Telechu. What does it mean? It tells me that I have to. The beginning of Avodah is dealing with chitzonius. You do things you don't understand. Chitzonius. I'm not expecting anybody to start with the innermost on the first day when they start. Okay, so if this is the path, if this is the method, we start from level 1, the lowest. Level 10 is the highest. So each one is supposed to be higher. So you tell me Achrai Hashem. Okay, first level, I'm fine with it. It says Oisa Siro, fear Hashem, Oisa Savoidu, serve Hashem. How come instead of going up, I'm getting at the end, the final level, the 5th level, Uvoisid Bakun, tells me to separate myself from Avodah Zarah. Separate from myself from Avodah Zarah should have been in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's the first step. How can you do all these things and then you tell me at the end, separate yourself from Avodah Zarah? If I did all these levels, you don't even have to tell me about separating myself from Avodah Zarah because I got Uvoisid Bakun, I got all the other levels.
Yeah.
All these things. I'm fearing Hashem already. I'm keeping His commandment, heeding to His voice, serving Him, and then you tell me to separate myself from Avodah Zarah. What's the connection?
Yeah.
Refraining from idolatry is like the ABC, the number 1.
Yeah.
And then he ends off. He brings the Gemara in Yuma at the end of the Masechta Samech Tes, and he says that the Chachamim of Eretz Yisrael, the rabbis in Eretz Yisrael, they killed the Avodah Zarah.
Yeah.
If they killed it already, why do you have to mention it to me? So although the earlier generation had a very strong Yetzer Hara, a very strong temptation for Avodah Zarah, and a lot of them failed in idolatry, but this inclination was killed already. So obviously separating ourselves from Avodah Zarah, it's not the Avodah. It's not, you don't take someone who comes to Yiddishkeit and tell him, by the way, you want to tshuva, you want to start observing the Torah mitzvahs. First thing, separate yourself from idolatry. Idolatry, who is doing idolatry?
Yeah.
Who has a desire to bow to a stone?
Yeah.
I was actually listening to a story of a guy that became Baal Tshuva. He explained that he was it was like the extreme left in Israel, and he was pro-Arabs, pro-this, against Jews, and as he after the army went to travel in the world, and they went to Scotland. Scotland went to certain areas where they traveled on a ferry, made it to a place where there's like Stone Age in different places.
Stonehenge, well, they have different things. See, the Druids, they had the old...
So when he got there, he said he felt sick. It was not religious, nothing. So he told his traveling partner that he can't stay there. He's too sick to stay. He's sweating. He doesn't feel good. Before the corona, back then,
Right.
he would not.
Right.
Just didn't feel good. So his partner was all excited and thrilled, and when he traveled back, he came with him, and he started looking into it. He realized that these places were idolatry, where they used to do the moilech, used to
Right.
offer their sons
Human sacrifice.
human sacrifices and the like.
Yeah.
So for him, the fact that his neshama could not handle such a thing,
Yeah.
and as soon as he was explaining, as soon as the ferry was leaving,
Yeah.
as he was distancing, he was feeling better and better and better. It was like very weird. As a healthy guy,
Yeah.
everything is fine as a young man. He gets there, he's feeling very sick. He gets out of it.
Yeah.
So this is it reminded me because it says the Avodah Zarah doesn't. There's no today. It's a museum, right? People just come to take pictures.
The church will have would they have the
right, but they would not do the moilech anymore. If somebody would try to
the-
do it, they'll
no,
go to jail.
But like the tree was connected. The tree was connected to that.
Right, Asherah. So
Right. No, the Christmas.
right, when we call Mokim, that's why you know how they call it till today. The Christmas tree in Israel, it's called Etz Shuach. Shuach is maybe associated with Asherah, the same Ian. But yeah, I heard the bells and some shackles
I
too.
didn't know about that until.
Yeah. Anyway, Avodah Zarah. But the Torah is eternal. It's written in Tanya that all the instructions are written in the Torah are relevant to even this time, and every time to every time and to every place. He says it's obviously the fact that it's written in this order. It starts with Achrai Hashem, and after it gives us all the different instructions that seemingly are escalating from one level to the next. But when we get to Voisid Bokun, it's seemingly speaking about Avodah Zarah. So it's really not. It's seeming. It looks like it's out of place. Voisid Bokun, as the Sifri says, it tells you to stay away from Avodah Zarah, and especially after the Gemara tells us in Yuma that the Yetzer Hara was killed. It comes to tell us that even when staying away from Avodah Zarah is something that happens easy for us, it's still the completion and the end of the almost like the top of the serving Hashem, and we'll soon see why. Uns back the Mavov do Matri Ach Bishnat Tafrish Haftes Shneimar Lefnei Me'ashon Posuk Achrai Hashem Telechu. This is again, and this whole line of Mamorim that was said in 1969 seems like the Rebbe is referencing always to Mamorim that was said by the Rebbe Marash in 1869.
Yeah.
So the Rebbe Marash also had a Maimer. Rabbi Shmuel, the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe, also had a mimer that starts the same opening verse. Achrai Hashem Telechu, the pasuk in this week Parshas Eikev, I believe it's chapter 13, verse 5.
Could you leave your high angle here? Because you got another one over there from the rabbi, no?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, chapter 13, verse 5. It says, the Rebbe Marash tells us that there are 15 letters, or 15 words in the pasuk Achrai Havai. Okay? 15 shvachim. So it says in Ishtabach we also say 15 praises. Shir, Ushavacha, Halil, Vezimro, Oiz, Umemshala, Netzach, Gedulo, Gevuro, Tehilo, Tiferes, Kedushu, Malchus, Bochis, Vedois. We have 15 praises to Hashem in Ishtabach and 15 words in the pasuk Achrai Hashem. So far, that's what the Rebbe Marash is telling us. Okay, why? Corresponding keneged tesvav shir hamaylos shebeteilim. Corresponding to the 15 psukim or 15 capitals that starts with shir hamaylos. Umamshich gam atzinu pasuk zeh. In this pasuk, Achrai Hashem Telechu, the pasuk that we are discussing, Chomish Vavin, we find 5 times the letter Vav is mentioned. Okay? Achrai Hashem Telechu ve'oisoi ta'avoidu ve'oisoi siro. The Vav that is mentioned. Ve'oisiro ve'es mitzvos tishmoru. So you have 5 vavin. 5 times the letter vav is mentioned in the pasuk, besides the 15 letters, 15 words. And in the Maimer of the Rebbe Marash, he explains the connection between 15 words in the pasuk to the 5 vavin, to the 5 times, the 5 vavs that are mentioned in the pasuk. ולבוא עניין חומש ווין, אלו maybe מה שכוסו, note for the Rabbi Menashe explaining what's the vavin for is 5 vavs. So he brings a pasuk. This pasuk is in Parshas Bechukoisai. What does the pasuk says? V'zocharti es bris Yaakov Molavo. Interesting. Usually Yaakov, how do you write Yaakov? Yud Ein Kuf Beis.
Yeah.
Somehow V'zocharti es Yaakov is written with a vav. Yud Ein Kaf Kuf Vav Beis. Yaakov.
Yeah.
Almost if you would just read it that way, with Yaakov. And Yaakov made it a vav. V'zocharti es bris Yaakov Molavo. Pirush Rashi. Rashi explains. There are 5 times that Yaakov is written with a vav. vav. 5 times, corresponding to that, there are 5 times where Eliyahu Hanavi is mentioned without a vav. 5 times it usually mentioned with a vav. El, Aleph, Lamed, Yud, Hey, and vav. Eliyahu. But there are 5 times it's written Eliah. Why? It says the fishy Yaakov not Eliyahu. It says that Yaakov took the vav from Eliyahu. The 5 times that Eliyahu is missing the vav, Yaakov takes the vav from Eliyahu. That's why there are 5 times that Yaakov is written with a vav.
So where are the 5
Because
times?
naturally Eliyahu is with a vav, and naturally Yaakov is without a vav. Now comes Yaakov and takes 5 times the vav from Eliyahu.
And the Vim,
Yeah.
find that.
Yeah. For example, b'mashkein shiove levasel segula levana. Why did he do it? Why did Yaakov take? So Yaakov took a collateral. It says Yaakov took a collateral from Eliyahu, because Eliyahu's mission is to announce the Geula. Eliyahu's mission is to come and announce the coming of Mashiach.
And Yaakov wanted to do it.
Yaakov wanted to verify that it's going to happen. Right. So he says, I'm taking something from you that you will get back once you complete your mission.
Ah, okay, sounds good.
That's what it means. And he concludes in the Maimer with a question. Why did Yaakov took specifically the Vav? Maybe Yaakov could take the Aleph, the Yud. Hey, there's plenty of letters. Why specifically Yaakov takes the Vav? So that's a question that Rabbi Menashe is asking. It brings also a question that's mentioned in Geras HaKodesh in Tanya. Ala Pasuk, Tita Nemes Liyaakov. It's a prophecy in Micha. Over there it says the word Tita Nemes Liyaakov. So the question was mentioned in Geras HaKodesh. It says, give truth to Yaakov. So the question is, what do you mean give truth to Yaakov? Yaakov is the attribute of truth. That's what Tiferes is all about. What Chesed, it says Avram is Chesed, Yitzchak is Gevur. If you only do Chesed, how can you be truth? How could it be truth? Because some people are not deserving it. If you only do Gevur, some people are not only deserving Gevur, they should also get Chesed. You should be kind to them. So comes Yaakov, and he's the mediation. He's in the middle. He can do both Chesed and Gevur. So Yaakov is Emes. So what do you mean to Emes to Yaakov? You should give truth to Yaakov. Yaakov is already truth.
Yeah.
Yaakov is the inyan of Emes. There's the question being Yaakov. So the question is, why would Yaakov take the vav from Eliyahu? Well, there's a Yaakov Mole, and that makes Yaakov complete. Adding a vav to his name, the Yaakov as minyan is vav. In Yaakov atzvoi hu inyan is vav. It says Yaakov himself is the epitome of the letter vav. What? Why? The Isa b'Zayar, it's written in the Zayar al pasuk, is a pasuk in Yeshua, in the prophet Yeshua, And the pasuk says, "Unesatem li ois emes." You should give me a letter of truth. Do ois vav. What is the letter of truth? Is the letter of vav. That's what the Zohar says. When Yeshua says, "You should give me a letter of truth," it is referencing to vav. Since Yaakov was the epitome of truth, the midah, the attribute of truth, so it's obviously his inyan is vav, because vav is representing truth. It's known in Kabbalah and Chassidus beinyan regarding Shemoneh Esrei. It says Agodel, Agibar, V'Anero. We say this accolades to Hashem. We say Agodel, the great, the Gibor, the strong, the Nero, the fearful. Shagodel. What is Godel? Is corresponding to Avram Avinu, the great, the awesome. Keneged Avram. Agibor, the strong, is Keneged Yitzchak. Right? Yitzchak is Gevurah. Gibor, Gevurah. V'Anero Keneged Yaakov, and the fearful is corresponding to Yaakov. You say Agodel, Agibor, V'Anero, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Okay. In a davka b'midah shekeneged Yaakov nemo v'hanero b'vav. And only when it comes to Yaakov, it says with a vav. Hagodel, it doesn't say with a vav. Hagibor, not with a vav. V'hanero, it suddenly comes with a vav. So we see that there is a connection, special connection between Yaakov and the attribute of Yaakov, which is emes, to the letter Vav. Chen b'inyan asfira is also regarding to the supernal manifestations. Yaakov b'chinas hamidos. Yaakov is also associated with midos, with the emotive attributes. The emotive attributes are connected with 6, right? And that's chesed v'od tiferes, nezach hod yisod. The 6 emotive attributes, they're all connected. There are 6 emotive attributes. When they are hinted in the letter Vav. It's written in Igeres HaTshuva. Line 2. Machar sheYaakov. Right, in Tanya it explains that the letters of Shem Havaya, the name of God, corresponding to the 10 spheres. Yud is Chochma, Hey is Bina, Vav is the 6 emotive attributes, and the last Hey is Malchus. Is the level of sovereignty. Machar sheYaakov atzmo is Vav, since Yaakov himself is the letter Vav. Einu muvan mashu tzarich litel is Vav Eliyahu. So if Yaakov is the letter Vav itself, why does he need to take it from Eliyahu? And only then, when he takes it from Eliyahu, it becomes Yaakov Mole. It becomes complete. He already had it before. He already had a connection with the Vav before he took it from Eliyahu. So the question now is even stronger. Why did Yaakov take the Vav from Eliyahu? We ask, why did he take the Vav specifically? So we answer that there is a connection between Vav and Emes, and to Yaakov himself there is a connection to Vav, because this is Ve'hanero. Agodel, Agibor, Avram, Yitzchak. Agodel is Avram, Yitzchak is Hanero, and Yitzchak is Agibor. Ve'hanero is referencing to Yaakov, and Ve'hanero is the only one that's treating with a Vav there. So we stop here and we'll continue, God willing, tomorrow.